the first part of this series, we discussed hybrids at the sophomore organic level in a pictorial fashion. We qualitatively discuss sp, sp2, and sp3 hybrids. Here, we're going to describe how they are mathematically created and begin to describe how you can use them to understand the electronic structure of main group systems. Also, by the end of this video, we will unveil that you have been denied the true power of hybrids. You have not been told a very important fact about hybrids that we will disclose. But first, we have to show you a little bit more about how they work. MO theory gets used to discuss electronic structure more often these days, but hybridization theories like valence bond theory can do just as good a job and are sometimes much easier to deploy. Hybrid formation is relatively simple. Each hybrid will have some amount of S and P characters, so for something like carbon where we're mixing 2s and 2p, we can start with just having a coefficient on the p orbital like this, where phi is the hybrid and a is the coefficient. The equation for the hybrid here isn't quite right because what it says we're doing is creating one hybrid by mixing a full s orbital with some part of p. In other words, we're combining 1 plus orbitals to make what should be exactly one orbital. You fix this in hybridization theory the same way you fix it in generating SALCS in MO theory, by normalizing the function. The equation for normalization is that you take 1 over the square root of the squares of the coefficients of the function. The coefficient in front of s is an implied 1, and the coefficient on p is a, so here's the normalization. Adding this to our function gives the equation for any sp hybrid. If we square this equation, we get the electron density, or sometimes it's called the probability density, of the hybrid. We are discussing orbitals on one atom, and atomic orbitals are always orthogonal, so the s and p orbitals must be orthogonal to one another with zero overlap. In other words, the mixed term 2asp is 0 because the overlap of s and p is 0. Distributing the coefficient gives this. For convenience, we're going to make a small substitution here. We'll exchange a squared for lambda, and lambda has been named the hybridization parameter. For any hybrid, lambda is the percentage of p character divided by the percentage of s character. Whether you realize it or not, lambda is something you're likely already familiar with because it is usually given in the form sp lambda. In other words, sp1, sp2, and sp3 hybrids are where lambda equal 1, 2, and 3 respectively. The electron density of one whole orbital is actually just 1, which is the case for the hybrid above, so this is true. The coefficient in front of s and p give the fraction of s and p character in the orbital. After we account for the fact that there is one valence s orbital and 3 valence p orbitals, we get what are called the sum rules, which are below. If we take all the hybrids on one atom and sum up all the s contributions to each hybrid, then there must be one total s orbital in there somewhere. So for all the ith orbitals on an atom, there's one s, which can be given mathematically like this using the coefficient of the equation above. For all the p orbital contributions on an atom, we can draw something similar, but it has to be equal to 3 since there's 3 p orbitals in the valence shell. It turns out that the sum rules can be quite useful for analyzing molecular structures of main group compounds, but we'll come back to that at some other time. For now, let's just use the equations for a hybrid to find out the nature of the orbitals around an atom. I'll pick something you already know the answer to, but there is a very important point to be made about hybrids in this example. In addition, you'll learn the details for how they form. Let's say you have a trigonal planar molecule like BF3, and you want to know what sp hybrids are being used to make the BF bonds in the molecule. There are 3 bonds in the xy plane, all 120 degrees apart. To start, we'll exclusively focus on the p orbitals. The pz orbital sticking up out of the plane isn't in a position to do any of the bonding, so it won't contribute at all. The formulas for the px and py orbitals are this. We're mostly concerned with the direction and the mixing of the p orbital with s, and the part r to the r over r square root of 3/4 pi gives the radial size. So we don't need to worry about that at the moment. The px and py orbitals simply point along the axes, and we need a way of mixing them at different angles. We'll call the angle alpha. So we have alpha equals 0, 120, and 240, and we can put the x-axis at 0. We're going to form 3 hybrids, which will temporarily give the symbol p1, p2, and p3 by mixing px and py. We can use the angle alpha of the hybrid and the equation here to calculate the amount of px and py character. If we just plug in the angles for the 3 hybrids, we get these 3 equations. The problem here, which may or may not be obvious, is that we just generated 3 hybrids from 2 p orbitals. We need to mix in the s orbital to get 3 real orbitals. Mixing in s doesn't change the directions we just figured out because it's highly symmetrical. Mixing in a sphere won't change the angles. And we can use our general form of the sp-hybrid equation to find the hybrids, and we'll call them h1 through 3. Everything is defined now for our hybrids except for the hybridization parameter in the normalization constant, lambda, and the mixing coefficient, a, which are related to one another because a squared equals lambda. So all we need to do is find either a or lambda. There are a couple of ways we could find these constants, but let's take advantage of a fact about hybrids in this case. Just like atomic orbitals on an atom, the hybrids must be orthogonal to one another, meaning that their overlap is 0. So if we draw an overlap integral with the 2 hybrids, it must equal 0. We do have some video that covers normalization and overlap integrals in some detail with regards to MO theory, and we'll put the link in the description. We'll use the overlap integral between h1 and h2, which must be equal to 0, to find the missing piece of our equation. It looks something like this in bracket notation. We know what p1 and p2 are, so we can add those to the function and expand. If an atomic orbital overlaps with itself, like this integral with 2 s's, then it is equal to 1. It overlaps perfectly. If different atomic orbitals are overlapped, like s and px, then the integral has to be 0 because the atomic orbitals are orthogonal. So the equation above simplifies significantly, as a bunch of the terms drop out to be 0. Then you solve for a squared and keep in mind that a squared is equal to lambda. If we plug everything into our equations for h1 through h3, we get the equations for all 3 hybrids. Now, I realize this may not be a big revelation. If you have 3 hybrids in a plane that are 120 degrees apart, you learn in sophomore organic that the hybridization is sp2. But the exercise above illustrates a very important point. Hybrid orbitals, which are required to be orthogonal, must exist at certain angles. Because hybrids are required to be orthogonal, and this requires them to be at certain angles from one another, depending on their hybridization parameter, there's a general equation that has been derived that relates hybridization to angle, which is called the Coulson directionality theorem. Here is the general form of the equation where omega ij is the angle between the hybrids, and lambda I and lambda j are the hybridization parameters for the 2 different hybrids. If the 2 hybrids happen to be the same, then it simplifies to this useful equation. For familiar sp1, sp2, and sp3, you can use these equations to get to the well-known angles between these hybrids. Namely, if the hybridization parameter is 1, then you get omega equals 180 degrees. If it's 2, you get 120 degrees. If it's 3, then you get 109.47. And if it's infinity, you get 90 degrees. If the hybrids are 90 degrees apart, they are as close as 2 orbitals can get in the main group, and that's when they are pure p orbitals, or sp infinity. This is a good point to say the truth has been hidden from you, possibly for years, depending on when you were first introduced to hybrids. Hybridization doesn't just go sp1, sp2, and sp3. The hybridization parameter actually goes from 0 to infinity. So a slightly larger range than that. You can see that the relationship between the angle and the hybridization in the graph below, where hybridization increases rapidly as you approach 90 degrees. One last thing, you could even calculate the relative energy of the hybrids using lambda. The equation for that is here, where E hybrid is the energy of the hybrid orbital and delta E sp is the s to p orbital energy gap. Basically, if you have a pure s orbital, which is sp0, then it will be 0. If you have a pure p orbital, sp infinity, then you get 1 from the first term. Other hybrids are in between. The more s-rich an orbital, the lower in energy it is. The simple equations we've covered regarding hybrids are very powerful when it comes to understanding the electronic structure of the main group, and in a future video we'll show you how to use them. But I hope you enjoyed this video on how sp hybrids are created. Thanks for watching. We make these videos for fun and as a way of giving back to the community. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe and give us a thumbs up. Really, the best way to support our channel is to watch more videos, and we have quite a few up at a variety of levels. We generate videos as best we can since we have other jobs. So please turn on the notifications button so you don't miss anything. Thanks again.